My name is Jeff Wilson. By day, I invest in tech companies, and at night, I invest in sports cards. Join me on my journey to profit from the hobby we all love. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Sports Card Investor. I'm Jeff Wilson, and today I'm going to tell you the 12 best basketball cards to invest in from a value perspective right now. These are 12 players whose cards I am buying in droves. I really like these 12 guys. They're all young players. These are all guys from the last 4 draft classes who the data and analytics are showing me are going to go on to have really great careers. But their cards right now are undervalued. So you can pick up their cards for a good price compared to the career that they are going to have. So these are guys who I really, really like from an investment standpoint. I'm excited to share this list with you. And I'm also really excited to hear what you think about this list. Are there guys on this list who you think I'm absolutely crazy to recommend? Or are there certain guys on this list who you absolutely love and you've already been buying their cards? Let's talk about that. And the best way to have a conversation about that is to join me on my free Discord server. I just launched that a few days ago when I put up my last episode. Discord is an online chat service. It's really easy to use. If you've never used Discord before, it's super simple to get into. There's an app you can put on your phone, or you can access it through your laptop or desktop. It's completely free to join. There's never any cost. And what you will find is that we already have many people who watch this show who have joined and are already talking about basketball card investments and football card investments and baseball card investments. So I'd love to have you join that conversation and tell me what you think about the 12 guys I'm about to talk about. To get to the Discord server, all you have to do is go to my website, sportscardinvestor.com, and click Discord server in the main menu bar. Or you can look in the show notes from this episode on YouTube or on podcasts. And of course, I also welcome you to comment on this episode on YouTube. Please do that as well. Getting a lot of comments there is great. But if you want to talk with others about your thoughts, the Discord server is certainly the way to do it. So here's how I came up with this list of the 12 guys who I believe are your best value investments in basketball cards right now. You've heard me talk in previous episodes about 538. 538.com is a data and analytics website that is owned by ESPN. So this is where ESPN goes. This is an analytics team at ESPN. This is where they go to get a lot of their advanced data that you might see during, SportsCenter or some of their broadcasts. And 538 is run by Nate Silver. Nate Silver is a famous statistician. He got famous because he very accurately predicted the elections for many years. Now, I will tell you, he missed on the last presidential election. He thought Clinton was going to win. He was pretty sure about that. So a lot of people point that out, and they're like, "Hey, look, this guy had a miss," and that is true. But more times than not, this guy is dead on with his predictions. And I have looked at his data for years, and I also use his data in other ways. Truthfully, this past year, I used some of his data to help inform sports bets that I placed. I used some of his data for basketball betting. I found it to be really good. I found it to be accurate and helpful. So I'm a big believer in the data models that he creates. And he has a data model called the Carmelo Rankings. And you can find this if you Google 538 Carmelo Rankings. And the Carmelo Rankings is where he projects each NBA player's career for the next 5 seasons. And when I saw this data, I said, what perfect data to take and compare against current card prices for these players. Because if he sees a guy, if his data shows that a particular player is going to have a really good next 5 years, and if that player's card prices are relatively low, then what a great time to invest in that guy. So I spent hours going through every single player's Carmelo rankings from the last 5 draft classes and comparing it to all of their Prism Silver card prices. And I used Prism Silver because that's kind of the gold standard in basketball card investing. I used Prism Silver PSA 10. So I had a very standardized, graded card to ensure quality. And I took all of their PSA 10 prices and compared it against the Carmelo data to figure out where the best values lie. Now, I mentioned that, Prism is the gold standard. Prism Silver is the gold standard for basketball card investing. Some people, including me, are a little bit worried that Prism Silver is being overprinted and may not forever be the gold standard in basketball card investing. But that conversation is for another episode. For today's purpose, it's good data to use. And it doesn't matter if you want to buy National Treasures or Noir or Immaculate or, Optic or any other brand. This same data would work out the same way. The same top 12 list applies here. So let's get to it. Let me tell you who I think the number one guy is to invest in from last year's draft class. So a guy who was a rookie from, during the 2018-2019 season, a guy from the 2018 draft class. I'm going to give these to you in order of who I think is the best investment. And I think the number one best investment from the 2018 draft class, Landry Shamet. He had a good first year. He played for the 76ers for a bit, was traded to the Clippers. He's a point guard out of Wichita State. He has a lot of promise. And the Carmelo data shows that he's going to have a good next 5 years ahead of him. And his Prism Silver prices are trading for really next to nothing. Like if you compare what his cards are trading for compared to, other players in his draft class, like, certainly, Trae Young or Luka, being on the top end, but really a lot of other players in his draft class, he is way low compared to a lot of the guys who were rookies this last year. But he's one of the guys who has a lot of promising future ahead of him. And the data really shows that to be true. So I really think Landry Shamet is your number one investment right now, purely from a value standpoint. I'm not saying he's going to be the best guy from the draft class. He's not. Luka, I think, is a heck of a lot better. And I think there are other guys who are going to be a lot better. But from a value perspective, he has the most upside to appreciate, in my opinion, comparing his Prism Silver prices to what the data shows that his next 5 years could look like. The number two guy in the 2018 draft class, Mitchell Robinson. He played awesome as a rookie last year for the New York Knicks. Showed a tremendous amount of potential. The funny thing is the Knicks drafted him 36th in the draft. He was not a high draft pick. He was a very low draft pick. And if they went back and redid the draft today, he'd be a top 3 pick. That's how good he is. And his projection for the next 5 years is really good. And his card prices are still a really good value. So I have him right now as my number 2 value guy of the 2018 rookie class. Number 3 is Jaren Jackson Jr., the big guy for the Memphis Grizzlies. Plays power forward, plays center, has a really great game, powerful guy. And he has a career projection for his next 5 years as being even better than Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson's got a really good projection, according to the 538 Carmelo data. Jaren Jackson's card prices are a little bit higher than some of the other guys, and that's why he's not quite as good of a value, in my opinion, than Mitchell Robinson or Landry Shamet. But I still think overall Jaren Jackson is a great guy to be investing in and still shows good value overall right now. The number 4 guy in the 2018 draft class is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai, I believe, also represents a really good value right now. He's got a nice career ahead of him. And I know some of you are probably thinking, well, goodness, he was just traded to Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma City could be a little bit of a wasteland for the next few years in basketball. So is it really a good idea to be betting on a guy from Oklahoma City? And here's what I have to say to that. It doesn't matter who he's playing for today. It doesn't, because I'm not buying this guy to watch his card prices go up next year with Oklahoma City. I'm holding this guy. And by the way, all the guys on this list are guys I would recommend holding 3 to 5 years. These are not quick flip type guys. I think these are all guys you want to hold for a few years. And in his case, if he is a good player and Oklahoma City is not great by the time he comes around for free agency, which I believe would be 2022, he would be a restricted free agent. He'll leave and he'll pair up with some other superstars and go to a bigger market team. We're seeing this now over and over again in the NBA. We're learning that the really good players get to dictate where they want to play and with who they want to play with. And so if he can work his way into that conversation, then it doesn't matter that he's with Oklahoma City now. What matters is where is he going to be in 5 years and what kind of team will that look like? And what will that mean in terms of what his card prices look like then? Because that's the point in time when he's going to be entering the prime of his career. So that's what I care about, not necessarily where he's playing today. And then the number 5 value guy in the 2018 draft class, this is going to surprise you, but it's Luka Doncic. And you might laugh at that because you might say, well, man, that guy's not a good value. His Prism silver prices for PSA 10 are like $600. That's, for comparison, guys like, Mitchell Robinson are less than 100, and this guy, Luka's $600. So how is he a good value? Well, his Carmelo data, 538's Carmelo data says that Luka is the best player drafted in the last 4 years. The number one guy. He's going to have the next best 5 years in front of him, and it's not even close. The Carmelo data shows he's more than double the player Trae Young is. He's like triple the player Trae Young is. He's better than a Jason Tatum and better than a Donovan Mitchell and, better than any of the other guys out of the last 4 draft classes by a mile. So even though his cards are expensive and high compared to a lot of his contemporaries, he has the opportunity to really be an all-world player. He's got the opportunity to be a Hall of Famer, all-world player, more so than a lot of other people in his class do. And so even though his prices are high, I still think there's some value to be had in Luka if you're willing to buy his cards and hold on to them for several years to watch what is hopefully a Hall of Fame career develop. There are 4 guys from the 2017 draft class who I am also very high on from an investment standpoint right now. The number 1 guy from 2017, and you've heard me talk about him in previous episodes, Lonzo Ball. I really think Lonzo Ball is very undervalued right now. His card prices have gone down a lot over the last couple of years. They have bounced back up a little bit since he was traded to New Orleans and got to pair with Zion. But his card prices, his Prism Silver PSA 10 is still well below Jason Tatum, well below Donovan Mitchell, other guys in his draft class. Yet the 538 data shows that he's going to have every bit of as good of a next 5 years as Jason Tatum or Donovan Mitchell. And I know that might surprise some of you, but it doesn't surprise me. I really think he's got a lot of potential. He's going to be lobbing the ball up to Zion, and he probably won't be in New Orleans for too long. He'll probably go back to a major market, hopefully go to a contender, pair with some other stars, and be the point guard that can help set them up on a deep playoff run. I see that happening, and I see Lonzo Ball as a really good value to buy right now as a result. The number 2 guy in the 2017 draft class from a value standpoint, John Collins. John Collins is almost forgotten about because he's in Atlanta, and the Hawks have not been relevant for a very long time. But the statistics like John Collins, the analytics shows that John Collins is going to have a great next 5 years ahead of him. And because he's in Atlanta, his card prices are not going for very much. People aren't talking about him a whole lot. I think now is the time to buy. And again, who knows if he'll be in Atlanta forever? Atlanta actually has a really nice nucleus of young talent right now. So Atlanta could become very relevant in the next 5 years. But if they don't, I'm sure he'll bounce somewhere else. And I'm sure we will see his cards appreciate when he does. So I like John Collins. The number 3 guy from a value standpoint in the 2017 class, Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum's cards are already relatively high. But I still think he represents good value. He's got a great career ahead of him. The analytics data is very high on what he's going to look like in the next 5 years. And Boston is his team now. Kyrie's out of there. Boston is turning to Jason Tatum to lead the way. A lot of players see a big performance increase going into their 3rd year in the league. And so I think we're going to see that this year from Jason Tatum. And so even though his cards are on up there in price, I still think he represents a good value. As well as the number 4 guy in my rankings for the 2017 draft class, and that is Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell has had a lot of hype around him as well, so his card prices are high. But I think Donovan Mitchell is going to have an outstanding career. The analytics show that Donovan Mitchell will have an outstanding career. He's a great player for Utah. Utah's a good team, not a great team. They're a good team. I don't know if he'll be with Utah forever, but I think what will happen is he's going to have a really great career, and he will be in a lot of demand when free agency rolls around for him, and he will have a big decision in terms of where to go. So I like Donovan Mitchell a lot. From the 2016 draft class, there's only one guy right now who I think is still of value from the 2016 draft class, and that is Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is a great player for Denver, and Denver has really gone all in on him. They gave him, not too long ago, they gave him a really big contract. They're really betting on this guy. I even read an article where I think Denver's general manager compared him to Kobe Bryant and said that he expects him to be the next Kobe Bryant. I don't know that I'm quite that high on Jamal Murray, but I do think that he's going to have a nice career ahead of him. The analytics like him a lot. They think he's a really solid player. I think Jamal Murray represents a pretty good value right now. His cards are high. His card prices are high, but he's got a lot of good career ahead of him. So I think he represents still a guy you should pick up. And for the 2015 draft class, two guys. These are the last two guys who I think are really good value picks. This will round out my top 12. The first guy is going to surprise you a little bit. Some of you are going to be like, who? What? Kevon Looney. Kevon Looney from Golden State, the big guy from Golden State, Kevon Looney. Why do I put him up on top of this list for 2015 and actually think he's one of the best values right now out of everyone I just mentioned? Because his card prices are absolutely next to nothing, yet the analytics are really high on this guy. He's a good player. He's a really good player. Now, I will say I was a little bit disappointed when Draymond Green re-signed with Golden State, because I was kind of hoping that Draymond Green would not re-sign and Kevon Looney would be able to go into more of a starring role as his career continued to progress. That didn't happen. So we'll see what happens with where Kevon Looney eventually ends up. But for now, he's got really good analytics. And the thing is, take a flyer on him. His cards are nothing. Like they're the lowest card prices out of anyone I mentioned so far in this show. So why not take a little flyer on the guy and see if the analytics are right, that this guy is actually a really solid player and will end up in a starring role someday in the future. And then the final guy from the 2015 draft class, who I think is still a very good value, is DAngelo Russell. DAngelo Russell, as you know, has bounced around a little bit. He is also now on the Warriors alongside Kevon Looney. And I think DAngelo Russell represents a good value. I think he's going to do well with the Warriors. And his card prices are not terribly high. I think DAngelo Russell, the analytics are really high on him. They think he is one of the better players from the last four draft classes. And hopefully now he'll have the chance to continue to show that when he's with Golden State, maybe more than ever before. And so he's another guy I'm buying, another guy who I think is a really good value. So there you go. The 12 guys who I think are the best basketball card value investments to buy right now. I would love to hear what you think about this list. And as I mentioned earlier, if you could do that on Discord or through the comments, that would be great. This is a fun time of year because we get to have conversations like this about basketball with the season starting in a few months. We get to have conversations like this about football with the season just about to start. And then baseball, you got the playoffs going. So this is a fun time of the year, and it's only going to be more fun for card collectors because Zion Mania is about to break. The first sets with Zion's auto are going to come out, and the first widely collectible sets of Zion are coming out in 2 weeks. The first one is going to be Contenders draft picks. And although I normally don't think this is a good investment, I bought 40 blaster boxes, pre-ordered 40 blaster boxes, which is 2 cases of Contenders draft picks. And the day that they come out, I'm going to bust open all 40 boxes and I'm going to go Zion hunting. And again, normally I do not think buying boxes of cards are, if you're really serious about investing, ripping open cards, ripping wax, it's a lot of fun. I like to do it. I love to do it. but it's not good from an investment standpoint. You normally don't get the return. You have to hit it big. You have to hit a really, special card to get a return. And of course, it's like gambling. It's like a slot machine pull. And just like going to Vegas and pulling a slot machine, most of the time you're going to lose from a value standpoint. And occasionally you'll hit it big and treat yourself to a nice steak dinner. But maybe things will be a little bit different in the early stages with Zion Mania. So I'm actually betting on the fact that I'm going to find a few Zions in those 40 blaster boxes, hopefully an auto. And I'm going to put them right up on eBay the moment I pull them out of the pack. I'm going to try to be one of the first people selling opened contenders, draft picks, basketball on eBay, and see if I can take advantage of some of that early eBay momentum, which always occurs. Whoever gets their cards up on eBay first when a new set comes out, they always see those cards trade at a much higher dollar figure than, people who get their cards up there a few days later. So I'm going to try to be one of the first, and who knows what I'll get out of those 40 blaster boxes, but that will make a fun future episode to tell you about. And I'm excited that Zion Mania is here in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, Zion Mania will start. Thank you for joining me today, guys. Please subscribe to the show if you haven't already, and please rate us. And if you are watching on YouTube, hit that little bell icon next to subscribe, because I've got some great episodes coming. I've got some baseball episodes coming in the next couple of weeks. And I've got a couple of other interesting episodes, an episode on population reports and some other things I'm working on. So I want you to be the first to know when one of my new episodes drops, and that is the best way to find out. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Sports Card Investor, and hope to see you again real soon.